We begin our hour in the Southwest. That's where both presidential candidates are focusing their energy. Former President Donald Trump is rallying in Nevada, Arizona, and New Mexico. That's a reliably blue state. Meantime, Vice President Kamala Harris visited Phoenix before heading to Nevada for two separate stops, focusing on courting the Latino vote. Now, her events will feature some special guests, including Jennifer Lopez, and performances from two Mexican pop bands, Mana and Los Tigres del Norte. Former Fox News anchor Tucker Carlson will join Trump on the campaign trail in Arizona. The former president, though, has found himself facing criticism once again, this time over comments he made about women Wednesday night that the Harris campaign was quick to jump on.
I'm going to do it whether the women like it or not. I'm going to protect them.
Listen, it actually is, I think, very offensive to women in terms of not understanding their agency, their authority, their right, and their ability to make decisions about their own lives.
Now, while the candidates continue to try and sway last-minute undecided voters, this election is already underway. You're looking there at the more than 63 million people who've cast their ballot in person or by mail by now. That is nearly 40% of all the ballots cast during the 2020 election. Now, Trump asked the crowd at his rally Thursday in New Mexico about that.
Who's voted? Oh. Okay, who is going to vote? That's good. Well, the people that have voted, if you voted against me, shame on you.
All right, for more on all of this, we're going to bring in CBS News political reporter Zak Hudak is joining us from our D.C. bureau. Zak, as we keep saying, this election is already happening. It's underway as we speak. And the candidates in the last 24, 48 hours or so appear to be throwing insults in both directions. Any proof from your point of view that it's motivating people to the polls?
Errol, it is too early to tell, but what we are seeing is that these insults are very strategic, and this is to be expected at this stage in the campaign. There is so little time left, 5 days until Election Day, that any small change could have an impact, particularly in states like Pennsylvania, where the last two cycles were decided there by less than 100,000 voters. So when we see the Harris campaign seize on former President Trump's comments about women the other night, they are thinking about all of the women in the Philadelphia suburbs who they are going to need to come out for them and who they were hoping have a stake in all of this over reproductive rights. At the same time, when we see VP Harris seize on some of the inflammatory comments made about Latinos at Trump's Madison Square Garden rally over the weekend, that is because of the growing Latino population in Pennsylvania. We've seen that population more than double, nearly triple over the last 20 years. So there's a lot of strategy going into these attacks, but it's a little bit too early to tell what kind of an impact they're going to have.
And it's an important detail for our viewers to remember, which is that women outvote men every single presidential election. Both campaigns vying for women's votes right now. Who is in a stronger position?
VP Harris is in a much stronger position with women. She is up by about 12 points, according to our latest CBS poll released over the weekend. Now, that is the opposite of what's happening with men. Former President Trump is up by about 9 points with them. And what we're seeing is that he is continuing to double down on men and focus his rhetoric toward them. It's something that VP Harris is referred to as a bromance he's having with his supporters. Meanwhile, she has been focused on trying to actually bring over some Republicans and has still continued to double down on women and on reproductive rights. That's an issue that the Harris campaign thinks is a big winner for them. They can tell women, hey, take a look at what Donald Trump's Supreme Court nominees have done to your reproductive rights in this country.
And the Harris team also pushing the topic of health care in general. There has been some back and forth, in fact, between the vice president and the Republican Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. Let's just play a sampling of what Harris said earlier on Thursday.
It has been a part of Donald Trump's agenda for a very long time. He has made dozens of attempts to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. And now we have further validation of that agenda from his supporter, the Speaker of the House.
Help us understand what Harris is referring to there.
Errol, I think this is yet another example of any misstep that any candidate makes at this stage is going to be seized on by the opposition. So it appears that Mike Johnson did not actually intend to suggest, or at least that's what he says, that he would be targeting the Affordable Care Act if Trump were to win and Republicans were to have a majority in Congress. However, the reality of the situation is about 2/3 of Americans support the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. So it is electorally just not very feasible for him to do that. Too many of his Republican House members would have constituents who are upset about it. So that's very unlikely. But that truly is another example of what you and I have been talking about. We are at the point in the campaign where any misstep, any gaffe will be seized on by the opposition to the maximum effect.
Yeah, that's right. Zak Hudak with the latest. We appreciate you joining us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Errol.